The Lumix G9 Mark II is finally here. When Panasonic released the original G9 a pandemic and a half ago, it was primarily aimed at sports and wildlife photographers looking for the portability and performance that the Micro Four Thirds system provided. While the second gen version is still Micro Four Thirds, it otherwise is a massive leap over the original G9 in just about every conceivable way. The G9 Mark II features a brand new 25.2 megapixel sensor and includes Panasonic's new phase detect autofocus system inherited from the S5 Mark II. It can shoot up to 75 frames per second in burst mode and can take 100 megapixel handheld high-res photos, thanks largely in part to its 8 steps of image stabilization. But video shooters are also getting a ton of value out of the G9 Mark II, including the ability to shoot in 10-bit 4K at up to 120 frames per second, 5.7K at up to 30 frames per second, and even the ability to record ProRes directly to an external SSD. Finally, the G9 Mark II is also launching with redesigned versions of Panasonic's 35-100 and 100-400mm zoom lenses, which offer improved image quality and additional support for macro and telephoto features. But let's start with that brand new sensor. It's 25.2 megapixels and enables the new phase detect autofocus from the S5 Mark II, as well as the dynamic range boost feature from the GH6. Now, if you've seen our review of the S5 Mark II, or let's be honest, anyone's review of the S5 Mark II, you'll know why this new phase detect autofocus is such a big deal. Compared to Panasonic's older DFD autofocus system, this new phase detect AF offers significantly improved subject tracking, as well as 779 AF points compared to the G9's 225. For photographers, this means you'll be getting reliable autofocus in a variety of shooting situations, including scenes with several people, backlit conditions, and low-lit environments. There's also a huge improvement in subject detection modes as well. The G9 Mark II can recognize animals, even down to eye detection. Seriously, for a hot second, I was able to get it to pick up the eye of a bee. A bee. But other subjects it can focus on are cars, motorcycles, and of course humans. For video, these autofocus improvements are even more noticeable. We were impressed with how reliable the subject tracking in video was for the S5 Mark II, and the same reliability and performance extends to the G9 Mark II as well. The dynamic range boost feature is another welcome addition inherited from the GH6, but in the G9 Mark II, it's been completely revised from the ground up. With DR Boost, whenever you take a picture or record video, the camera will obtain 2 types of images from a single exposure via 2 different analog circuits, a low ISO and a high ISO version. By preserving the saturation from the low ISO version and the reduced noise from the high ISO version, the camera is then able to combine the 2 images into a single composition that maintains both low noise and high saturation. This is similar tech to what many smartphone cameras utilize, but in a much larger Micro Four Thirds sensor like the G9 Mark II has, the effect is way more impressive. This DR boost was introduced in the GH6, but it's been simplified and expanded for the G9 Mark II. Firstly, it's now enabled by default so long as you don't exceed the frame rate parameters, meaning you do not need to dig through the settings in order to enable it manually. And secondly, this mode is much more flexible than before. It's active automatically for photos in the standard profile at ISO 100 and up, HLG video at 250 and up, and Vlog at 500 and up, whereas the GH6 required locked-in ISOs for the DR boost feature. But going hand in hand with the improved image quality and autofocus are improved photo modes as well. The G9 Mark II is able to shoot at a maximum of 60 frames per second in continuous autofocus and 75 frames per second in single point autofocus, both with electronic shutter. It has a large buffer of over 3 seconds and is completely blackout free when shooting in burst modes. This also extends to improved pre-burst shooting. The original G9 was able to capture images at up to 0.4 seconds before you fully press the shutter button, but on the G9 Mark II you can capture images at 0.5, 1, or 1.5 seconds before you fully press the shutter button. For action photography with unreliable subjects, such as seals when they're being fed and are very excited about this can be the difference between getting the shot and whiffing it. High-res mode is available here as well and is also improved over the original G9. In this mode, the camera takes several pictures automatically and shifts the sensor slightly between each photo, resulting in up to 100 megapixel RAW and JPEG photos with 4 times the pixels as a standard photo. Now, this handheld high-res mode is possible due to the G9 Mark II's excellent image stabilization. With 8-stop body image stabilization, capturing photos, even at telephoto range, is possible at slower shutter speeds. And for video, this results in some of the most natural-looking handheld stabilization you can get in a mirrorless camera. The G9 Mark II also adds new active IS and improved electronic IS to help correct camera shake while moving, as well as fix the perspective distortion in straight lines that can appear when applying image stabilization. On the video side of things, the G9 Mark II packs in way more features than you'd expect from a photography-first hybrid camera. It's almost exclusively a 10-bit camera and one that can record up to 120 frames per second in 4K 420, 60 frames per second at 10-bit 422, and OpenGate 5.8K in 10-bit 420. It can also record in both long GOP and all intra, and can even record ProRes to an external SSD via its USB-C port at up to 5.7K at 30 frames per second. And once again, the fact that it now uses a phase detect autofocus system means that you're getting excellent video autofocus performance, and it's so nice to finally be able to start saying that about Panasonic cameras. Physically, the camera body is almost exactly the same dimensions as the original G9, only a few millimeters taller and a few millimeters less wide. Its button layout is perfectly in line with Panasonic's recent full-frame and Micro Four Thirds cameras, with several customizable buttons around the body and metal dials for the drive modes and camera modes. It features a 3.6 million dot OLED EVF and 1.8 million dot free angle LCD screen, which is nearly twice the resolution as the one in the original G9. The joystick is also more flexible by allowing 8-direction movement instead of just 4, and this revised joystick is also present on the optional new battery grip, which provides excellent battery life and easy handling even while shooting vertically. Finally, along with the G9 Mark II, Panasonic also launched updated versions of 2 of its zoom lenses, the Leica 35-100 f2.8 and 100-400 f4-6.3. But keep in mind, in case your Micro Four Thirds math is a little fuzzy, these are the full frame equivalents of 75-200 and 200-800 millimeter focal ranges, making them perfect for sports and wildlife photography. In addition to featuring Panasonic's power image stabilization and splash dust and freeze resistant design, they're also stupefyingly small considering their focal range. We play with a lot of full frame and APS-C cameras here at B&H, and I sometimes forget how convenient and compact Micro Four lenses are, even at giant focal ranges. New to the 100-400 millimeter is full-size macro photography thanks to a maximum magnification of 0.5 times. But this can be bumped up to 1 times with Panasonic's 2x teleconverter, which the 100-400 is now compatible with. When paired with the 1.4 times teleconverter, you're getting a maximum focal distance of 1,120 millimeter full frame equivalent, and when paired to the 2 times teleconverter, you're getting up to 1,600 millimeters. Finally, on the 35-100 millimeter f2.8 lens, you're getting a Leica DG Vario L Merit lens with improved optical performance thanks to further suppressed ghosting and flaring and high image quality across the entire zoom range. The G9 Mark II may be a Mark II camera, but it's definitely more than an iterative upgrade. With vastly improved autofocus performance, more dynamic range, faster burst modes, 100 megapixel high-res photo options, some of the best IBIS you can get in a mirrorless camera, and a ton of flexible video recording options, the G9 Mark II is a robust and versatile option for any hybrid Micro Four Thirds shooter. But what do you think of the G9 Mark II? Let us know in the comments below. Seriously, we do read them. I'm Nick with B&H. Stay creative.